All right, Trevon. So we just finished up the last day in the NBA regular season. It was a really interesting day. A lot of games that had a lot of weight in terms of the seeding in the playoffs. So let's just touch on the Western Conference and how the seeding shaked out in the West. And I just want to get your thoughts on it. What's the best matchup that you think is going to be for the first round, and what team are you looking forward to seeing in the Western Conference?
I think the best first round is going to be the 4 and 5 between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. It's almost like they cannot avoid each other in the playoffs for some reason. I think last year was the only time they haven't played each other, but it's like destiny just keeps bringing them back together. And I feel like that's a matchup that both teams like, honestly, probably Luca more so than the Clippers. But the Clippers have historically won those matchups between the two. Luka hasn't been able to overcome them quite yet. But I feel like this year can be a little bit different because I think that the Mavericks have added a lot of versatile wing depth and size. You think about Derrick Jones Jr., the addition of PJ Washington at that 4 spot. You think about Tim Hardaway and what he brings, Josh Green, and you just have a lot of people. Dante Exum, he's been shooting the ball pretty decent in key games, which was one of his weaknesses. But we know what he's able to do defensively. And then you have Kyrie Irving to go with Luka Doncic. That's giving Luka a guy that he can really count on. I know Porzingis was his Robin to his Batman in previous years, but outside of the bubble, Porzingis wasn't really able to string too much consistency in the playoffs against the Clippers. So that's just going to help take a lot of load off him because you have, like, in my opinion, I think Kyrie's a top 75 player, especially if you're talking about just skill and offensive talent. He's one of the best we've ever seen in the game. So I think it's a little bit different in previous matchups because that's another guy that the Clippers have to look at. And then I think the biggest key is that you have an actual athletic vertical lob threat and a rim protector in Derek Lively. And then you're bringing your other bigs who have been there in the past off the bench to support him as bench depth. So I really do like the Mavericks' chances in that series. Kawhi hasn't really been playing down the stretch. We don't necessarily know exactly what's going on with him. It's kind of the same old story every year where they look really good. People buy into the stock of the Clippers, and then towards the end, things kind of start to crumble a little bit and break down. And you just really wish you could see the full potential of this team. I think the year Kawhi got hurt against Phoenix in the conference finals was really the chance that they really had. And outside of those, there hasn't really been much deep playoffs run for the Los Angeles Clippers. So I think that's really favorable for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I think the Clippers and the Mavericks, that is the series to watch for in the Western Conference, just because the history they've had, you just went over that. But Luca has been killing the Clippers in those matchups. If I'm being honest, on an individual basis, he just kind of owned them in a way. No one really has an answer for him, especially when you look at his offensive output in those series. But I'm looking at this a little more from the Clippers standpoint. You just mentioned it, that year that the Bucks actually won the championship. That was probably the best year or the best chance that the Clippers had in terms of the landscape of the rest of the NBA and the road that they had to get through in order to not only reach the finals, but also have a chance to win it. And unfortunately, Kawhi got injured that season and it kind of just derailed their chances. But it just brings me to a question of how many more chances do the Clippers really have with that core group of people? We all know that Kawhi re-upped in terms of signing an extension to stay with the Clippers. But again, how many more chances are you going to have in terms of the landscape of the NBA? Because there are a lot of teams in the West getting better. You just mentioned the Dallas Mavericks and how Luca and Kyrie have figured it out and how the Mavericks are building around those two guys. much better than they did in the past. When you look at teams like the Thunder, they're continuing to improve and they are actually ahead of schedule. They just got the number one seed in the Western Conference. So that was great for them. Then you look at the Denver Nuggets, they're not going anywhere. The Minnesota Timberwolves are still getting better and they have a rising star in Anthony Edwards, or possibly can be a superstar in Anthony Edwards. Then you look at the teams below them, the Kings, they're still trying to figure things out, but I don't think they're really going anywhere. You look at the Warriors, maybe they get things together and figure what else out. But as long as you have Steph, you still have a chance. The Lakers and LeBron, I don't think that they're going to be necessarily worse. The Pelicans are a team that is continuing to get better, and they're a young team as well. And Phoenix, I'm not going to say that they're going to be much better next year. You know, they are continuing to get a little older, but I don't see them being any worse. And then you got teams that are or didn't even make the plan that are still trying to
On the
build
brink.
towards something. Yeah, on the brink. And the Rockets, the Spurs with Wemby, after, you know, in a few years, his team is going to be in the mix. So again, how many more chances are you going to have with this core group to get it done? And if not now, when? So that's kind of the lens I look at it from that specific matchup. And yes, I do agree with you. That is going to be the matchup I'm looking forward to seeing in the Western Conference in the first round. I think the 3-6 matchup between the Timberwolves and the Suns is going to be a really good one.